This is one of my kids' toys he used to play with. There are two steel balls, and it's like a building toy, and the metal balls don't connect. They don't connect to each other. But there's all these little metal connectors and you can make this thing kind of up and down and make all these really cool structures. And we used to play with them, make big designs, things like that. Just get us creative, creative brain and everything starting to roll a little bit. For whatever reason, this toy made sense to me, and the sense it made to me was that in our industry, we prioritize two things, and those two things are your diet, your nutrition, right, and then the workout component. They're really easy to market. They're really easy to focus on. But when you actually have like real conversations with people about what's going on with them and their wellness and the things they're dealing with, you realize really quickly these two things cannot connect together on their own. They just can't. There has to be some type of link that joins them together. And those links we often don't talk about are really, really difficult things, but they play a huge role in the success of these two things working together. Well, what I mean for that is just your nutrition and your workout alone. If for let's say your sleep, let's say this represents your sleep. Those two things come together, for your sleep. Let's add something else. Let's add your stress. Okay. Let's add that. Okay. Let's add your mental health. Okay. Let's add your emotional health. Okay. Let's add, your work life. Those things. These is what it really starts to look like for people. And these things alone can't hold themselves together unless you link all these things together. Let's talk about a big one for people. How about money? Money's a big issue for a lot of people. Okay. And that connects everything together. Uh, for a lot of people who we don't talk about because it's very difficult to talk about, substance will determine the success of these two things together, right? I mean, this can go on and on, and when you start to look at, this is just like your social network, how your friends, everything who you talk to. I mean, and another one, the last one I'll put on here just to show the representation of it all, is like this starts to become like you start to realize how complicated this thing can start to be. These two things alone, which is what we promote, they're easy to market, they're easy to kind of get your emotions and your hormones involved. But the money in it, which our industry likes to not tell you about, is prioritizing just these two without all these links that bring everything together is how you make a significant amount of money, because trying to slam these two things together, you realize pretty quickly it doesn't work that way. And the real game is what we don't tell you, and not we like us as a business, but just as the industry does. If you start to prioritize these things, and you have to prioritize them, you start to prioritize these links that bring this whole structure together. You start to focus on these things, and they're really, really hard things to do. You realize pretty quickly that these two things require little to no expertise. They require little to no expertise as they do already. But when you really start to link your money and your happiness and your wellness and your sleep and your stress, the stress part we don't talk about enough. Stress will zap these two. Even the best workout program, the best nutrition program will come faltering down if these links don't all come together. If your stress is bad, you're not sleeping, and if you're not sleeping, you're not eating well. If you're not eating well, that can cause a lot of emotional, trauma for you, or a lot of emotional feelings about why am I not doing well? And, when we don't speak on these things, it allows a lot more room for error, and it allows a lot more room for people to kind of get in and trick you to thinking that all you have to do is focus on these, just focus on these, just your nutrition and the workout component of it. So, and these are really tough conversations for people to have, because if you look at complexity, this is just about, 8 of these things. Some people have like 50, and sometimes it's not even 50. Sometimes it's one big one, like the big one I talked about before, like substance. Substance is a big thing for people. If you have a bad substance problem, whatever the substance may be, these two things, no matter how good they are not going to be effective, or they're not going to be successful at all. So these are the real conversations you have with people, and they're really, really tough ones to have. And we don't highlight them because they're really, really hard to market. And by not highlighting them, you can charge people a lot of money because you understand the success of these two things are going to go nowhere without all this kind of wrapped together. And I bring that up because, like I said, it's the day-to-day stuff that matters. It's the day-to-day stuff you got to focus on. You got to hone in on. When these things aren't working, and you talk to whoever influencer you're talking to, you talk to whoever the profession is you're talking to, and they only highlight these things, and they don't look at something important. It's just like your sleep, and they say, "Hey, here, here's my macro breakdown," and then they send you something back, and they're like, "Oh, I saw that you were at 25 grams of protein. You need to be at 27." That's not going to matter. That's not going to matter at all if you're not sleeping, if your stress is bad, if you don't feel good at work, if you feel like you missed a promotion or you've been overlooked for a promotion. If like family life is like the biggest thing that wraps in here, whether you're single or you do have a family, those things dependent on these things, but like, it doesn't have to be something like bad like family life. It could be something as simple as like, hey, I'm on a diet. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to do all these things, but everybody else is not, and they're doing ice cream. And that makes these two things not successful, and it disrupts. So I'm trying to use this as an example, and it just spoke to me a little bit that, like, this is the complexity of this whole thing. It looks like this. And these things are really, really hard things to talk about, but they really determine the success of your diet, your nutrition, or vice versa, whatever you want to use to represent it, these two things. But we only highlight, if I take these things off, the only thing we really highlight, because there's more money in just highlighting these two things, because you're sitting at home or wherever you're at trying to figure out, why don't these two things go together? Why can't I get them to fit? Because they can't fit if you don't prioritize the other links in your life that hold all this stuff together. So if you can take your time and reprioritize, focus on your stress, focus on your sleep, okay? Focus on your family life, focus on the social aspect that you have in this world. All these things all connect together. And if you have a broken link in the change, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all how well put together these two things are. They will not fit together. They won't. Okay, so I know it's tough. It's a tough conversation. It's a tough thing to focus on, but it's something that you really got to prioritize. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You look at the industry, we promote perfection and what people look like, what they wear, how they look, the camera. I mean, look at mine. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to prioritize the most important things in your life for these two things to work.